Why don't you go back and live in that tin roof house, wood hut with the outhouse, and start the process of making these neighborhoods great again?
That's a very good question. First of all, I am going to buy some land down there in Alabama, and I'm a plantation, and I'm gonna start a new plantation so I can bring the blacks back and teach them to be how to work. Teach them how to work, how to respect, how to love God. Most black people don't love and believe in God today, even though they go to church. Here I have with me Jason Nichols. He is a progressive commentator, columnist, and a full-time lecturer in the African American Study Department at the University of Maryland. Jason is here. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jesse?
All is well. Happy White History Month.
Well, I don't know what to say to that, but good day to you, brother.
You know that July is White History Month, and we celebrate because July just feel white.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling white today. Not exactly how I feel, but
how you feel?
I feel happy. I feel like a human being. I feel like a strong man. That's how I feel.
Amazing. What is, I know you lecture in the African American Study Department at the University of Maryland. What is African American Studies?
So African American Studies is an interdisciplinary field that looks at the many aspects of life for African Americans, broadly defined. We also have looked a little bit at pre-colonial Africa, but everything that affects people that are known as Black people globally and specifically here in the United States.
And do you celebrate Black History Month or something like that? They have, I believe it's Black History Month in February. Do you celebrate Black History Month?
So we do, or I do, celebrate Black History Month, but one place where we might agree is that I believe that every month is Black History Month, and Black people made history every single month of the year. And in a perfect world, we would have no need for a Black History Month.
And so, do you celebrate White History Month in July?
No, I don't.
Why not? If you celebrate so-called Black history, why not white history?
Because I think white history is celebrated all the time.
How is that? Did you celebrate white history yesterday?
I think we celebrate it all the time. If you're celebrating history in the United States of America, you should celebrate the history that all Americans have made. So in that case, that's the history that white Americans have made, the positive things that they've done. They've done some negative things, but you would celebrate that. You would celebrate the contributions of Black people. You would celebrate the contributions of Asians and Native Americans, because that's all what's made this country what it is.
What did you do yesterday to celebrate white history?
As I told you, Jesse, I didn't celebrate white history.
But why do people
it's the first time I've heard of it.
This is the second year. I started it last year in July. This is our second year.
Oh, so you're the founder of White History Month?
Yes.
Okay, all right, congratulations.
Thank you. And the president put on a major parade on White History Month on the 4th of July.
Yeah, well, I think he certainly celebrated White History Month yesterday with some of the tweets and things that he's done.
That was beautiful.
So I would agree with you that he celebrates that stuff.
And so you say that we celebrate white history every day. What did you do yesterday to celebrate white history?
I don't know. I brushed my teeth and made them as white as they possibly could get. So perhaps that's something. I don't know.
I hear people say, especially Black people, they say, well, we celebrate white history every day, but they can never tell me what they did to celebrate white history. It seems to be something that they say, but it's not true.
Well, again, if you're talking about celebration, I would ask you, if you celebrate white history, I would turn that question around on you. What did you do during the month of February? It seemed like you were kind of having trouble even knowing when Black History Month was. What do you do during Black History Month to celebrate Black history?
I nothing, because first of all, there's no such thing as Black history, and then I think that
So
the Black
there's
people who
white history, but there's no Black history?
right. I mean, we have Black people who have died, like Booker T. Washington and others, who have done great things to help make America great. But those are just regular American people, not so-called Black history, right? And these people who are celebrating Black history, people who hate white people, and they're trying to make themselves feel better about hating white people, trying to prove that they're better than whites.
Yeah, so I'm going to disagree there, and I would say if you're talking about White History Month, why would there be a White History Month if you're saying that it's all Americans? Wouldn't this just be American History Month?
Yeah, but white people, as you know, are the founders and creators of the greatest country on the world, on this side of heaven, which is America. And it's unfortunate, but they allowed all these other people to come in. And now these very people that they allowed to be here, the colors, they are now attacking white people. So whenever you mention white history today, it's always in a negative way rather than appreciating white history. But they appreciate a phony history like Black history, which is only an illusion.
So let me ask you this: the coloreds, and would that include you?
Me what?
Like, are you one of the coloreds that the white man has let in?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be born here, and I am an American. I don't see myself as the Black people do. I don't see myself as a into that African American crowd and about into the Black thing. I'm into being right and doing right, and so I don't celebrate that kind of stuff. I appreciate my country and I stand up for my country.
But you created White History Month. Like, why
Right.
would you create that? Why wouldn't you create American History Month if you're trying to say that, one person isn't Black and one person isn't white? Why are you injecting race into it then?
Because white history is American history, and everything else is an illusion. It's not real. So when you're celebrating white history, you are celebrating American history, which include all of the people who love America, who was born here and are citizens of this country.
So if white history is American history, you mentioned Booker T. Washington, who was not white. How does he fit in?
He was an American. He wasn't into the Blackness. As a matter of fact, he said to be aware of those, and I'm paraphrasing, to be aware of those Black people who are always complaining and murmuring and making up stuff, because those people want to control you. They build a life off of seducing people, and they use them for their own personal gain. So Booker T. Washington was about loving all people and not hating white people.
Booker T. Washington actually was clear about being a Black man, and as a matter of fact, he started the Negro Business League, the National Negro Business League. He was very much about Blackness. As a matter of fact, one of his famous quotes, if you go to Tuskegee right now, you will see a statue of Booker T. Washington where it says, "Up, you mighty race." He's not talking about the white race. He's talking about Black people.
But I grew up there near Tuskegee. I visited the school all the time.
Sure.
And yes, the traitors of Black people may have misquoted him to use that in order to pretend racism exists and all that, to keep Blacks brainwashed, dumbed down, and demoralized in order to use them. But Booker T. Washington was clearly not into color at all. As a matter of fact, he tried to teach Blacks to be independent people, to work for yourself, do for yourself, and that they had a lot to offer Americans, so don't be hating whites. And Booker T. was hated by the Black race hustlers like W.D. Du Bois and others. They hated Booker T. because he was not one of them.
So I would disagree that Du Bois hated Booker T.
No, he
Washington.
hated him. But
Listen,
Du Bois even hated his own country. That's why he left and went to Africa, because he was a communist socialist, and he hated America.
that's true.
And he denounced this
That he
American.
hated America. I think he was disappointed with the fact that America was not changing rapidly enough, despite the contributions of Black people.
No,
You know that Black
he would like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Louis Farrakhan, and all those people are today. He's the same spirit of evil. But I got to ask you, you said that white privilege is knowing that your natural hair is always considered acceptable for work. Can you explain that? Elaborate on that?
Well, first of all, Jesse, I thank you for looking at my Twitter, and your followers can follow me on Twitter at Real Doc Seuss. That's at RealDocSoos. So I think that, again, if you, particularly for women, but also for men, when you are a white person, pretty much no one ever asks that you chemically alter your hair or put certain hair extensions in your hair or go through these painful processes in order to be acceptable for work. There's a lot of discrimination. And as a matter of fact, in the state of California, and your home state, I believe, they have passed a law called the Crown Act.
Yeah.
Where, you cannot discriminate against somebody on the basis of having natural hair. So again, obviously there was serious discrimination going on against people based on the texture or appearance of their hair, not based on the content of their character or their ability to work. And that's something that was aimed squarely at Black people because they have a different hair texture.
Well, white people never ask Black people to put chemicals in their hair. When you go and apply for work at someone else's business, especially a private business, and they want you to look neat, they have a dress code. They have a right to tell you, this is our dress code. If you want this job, you must obey the dress code. And not too many people want these men and women to be wearing all that nappy hair on their head, look like Afro things, all dry and nappy. As a matter of fact, Black women who wear that stuff, they look boring. They look masculine. They look boring. And if the companies don't want that dry, nappy hair, they have a right to ask them to dress differently. And also, Black people are only wearing that kind of nappy hair because they hate white people. Most Black people hate white people, and they're trying to prove something to themselves, that they're better than whites or that they can do what they want. It's all about getting it back at white people. That's why they want to wear that stuff.
Now, Jesse, let me ask you this. If I own a business and I said, I don't want you to come in to my business because of your skin color, is that my right as a business to deny you service based on the color of your skin?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, at least you're consistent.
Because you have a private business and you put that business together in spite of what Obama said. You built the business and you have a right to set your own rules. When the Blacks I grew up in Alabama on a plantation down there under Jim Crow laws. And I remember when Blacks were protesting, they took it too far, the so-called civil rights people, and they were forcing their way into white-owned private businesses and tried to force white people to service them, whatever it was, right? And I thought then, these Black people are taking this too far. You can't force a man. You don't have a right to force a private business to service you. But they did that, and it was wrong. Likewise, it would be wrong to make white people, any private business, take a nappy-headed person in if they don't want to.
So let me take this a little bit farther. You live in LA, right?
Yes.
So what if I said you cannot live in the neighborhood you live in because of the color of your skin?
If they own the neighborhood, if it's a private owned neighborhood, the government is putting no money in that neighborhood, it's privately owned, then they have a right to do that. Even black people, including myself, I'm very concerned when I see black people moving into my neighborhood because I know when black people are moving in, crime, destruction, ghetto, stealing, robbing, and killing is coming with them. And so I wouldn't want my neighborhood to be destroyed. So I'm very careful about who move in my neighborhood even now.
So, and you make that determination based on the skin color of the people that move into your neighborhood. You judge them by their skin color.
Well, now I made that decision by if they should apply, take an application and do a thorough background to make sure that they have a job, they've not been in jail, they're not been part of gangs, and that they're going to keep the neighborhood looking well. And as a private person, I have a right to do that, and no one has a right to tell me I can't. Look at the black neighborhoods. Nobody want to go to where white people going back now, buying up the land and making it beautiful again. But I don't see people moving into the neighborhoods. When Snoop Dogg and all those people got money, they move out of the neighborhood. So why shouldn't white people have the right to protect their own neighborhood from the blacks?
Well, look, let me tell you this. First of all, I think that the communities, I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and there are incredible, beautiful, wealthy black communities that are almost all black. And, it's a place that's desirable and most people want to live. So this idea that you just came up with crime and all of that, I think that has to do with, some of the economic issues that we have in communities, the way communities are underserved. If you had fewer resources and things like that, even you might resort to that. And I think, right now, Jesse, to be honest, I never try to question anybody's sincerity, but I don't think you believe what it is that you're saying.
I know it. I mean, it's true what I'm saying, and everybody know it. A lot of people won't say it.
I don't believe
a lot of people won't say it, but you and I know that it's true. And by the way, when I was growing up, as I said, I grew up on a plantation in Alabama. I lived in a wood house with a tin roof. The bathroom was an outdoors bathroom, and we had to grow our own food and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes we went to the store. And you didn't see black crime like you see it now. You didn't see ghetto neighborhoods. And you didn't see out of wedlock birth and hating white people like you see it now. And my point is, black people are not suffering because of the lack of material things. Black people are suffering due to the destruction of the family and the lack of moral character. Most black people are immoral. That's why they are suffering. That's why they beg for reparation. They beg for affirmative action. They attack white people. We saw a bunch of blacks going into a store and just robbing it, stealing and destroying it. Nobody want that mess around them.
So let me ask you this. If black people were better off when they lived under conditions that you just named, that you grew up under, why don't you go back? Why don't you go back and live in a tin house with an outhouse? If that's the way people that look like you should live, then why are you making it worse for everybody? Why are you making it worse for the white people in your neighborhood? Why don't you go back and live in that tin roof house, wood hut with the outhouse? And start the process of making these neighborhoods great again.
That's a very good question. First of all, I am going to buy some land down there in Alabama, and I'm a plantation, and I'm going to start a new plantation so I can bring the blacks back and teach them to be how to work. Teach them how to work, how to respect, how to love God. Most black people don't love and believe in God today. Even though they go to church, they don't believe in God, because if they did, you would have 70% of black babies born out of wedlock, black men and women hate one another. You wouldn't see the mama ruling the house and the man is weak. Beta males. You would see morality instead of immorality in the black community if they believed in God. But I gotta ask, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I did really quickly, and that is, Jesse, and this is a personal question. If you don't feel comfortable answering it, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
But do you date black women or do you date white women or?
Right now, I'm not dating at all, but when I dated, I did date black women. Because black women deserve to have a good man, and most black men are weak beta males. They even when they get with a woman, they become the boy and she become the mama. And so black women deserve to have a good man. They haven't had one in the last 70 years or so.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was for some reason I was thinking you were going to say white women, but okay, that's interesting.
Why were you thinking that?
Because you seem to have a lot of animus towards black women.
No, I don't have any anger toward anybody. I love all people. That's why I tell black people the truth, because I love them. I don't lie to them and pretend that it's racism or sexism or homophobia-ism or Islamophobia-ism or deadbeat dad-ism or anti-Semitism. It's either right or wrong, good or evil. And black people at one time knew that. Prior to the civil rights movement, they believed in God. They got married for the most part. They didn't have all these children out of wedlock and begged somebody else to take care of them. So I'm trying to bring them back to a time when they were moral.
So what is your opinion of Dr. King and the civil rights movement, Ella Baker? What's your opinion of that?
Well, I believe now that the civil rights movement itself was one of the worst things that's ever happened to black people. Because I noticed that prior to the civil rights movement, black people thought for themselves, they did for themselves, they didn't blame anyone, they were not hating white people, they were not relying on the government, they were not begging for affirmative action and reparation. But after the civil rights movement started, the blacks turned their lives over to the so-called civil rights leaders and over to the Democratic Party, and they have not recovered. They have only gotten worse instead of getting better. So it was a mistake.
I think that's an oversimplification. So you think that during the period that you praised, it seems like since you said you grew up in Jim Crow in a small wood house with a tin roof and an outhouse, but post-civil rights, you live in a posh neighborhood in L.A. So doesn't it seem like things have gotten better post-civil rights because you're living a better life, correct?
Well, I was living a good life then because I didn't have the hatred in my heart for white people. I didn't blame them for anything. We were taught to love and not to hate. So even then, I didn't consider myself as being poor and all that crap. And so today, I live even pretty much the same, except that I don't have any hatred in my heart at all, and I'm doing fine. But I don't, even when life was tough, when I moved to California, I had to do it on my own. Life was tough, but I still didn't blame the white people for it. I was taught to work, to save my money, to invest, and to take care of myself. That's why I started Bond, my nonprofit organization, 29 years old now, and we are rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. We counsel, we tutor, we show the guys how to invest their monies and to save their money, invest their money in land and whatever they want to do. We also have an entrepreneur academy where we're teaching them how to start businesses. I started a credit union to loan them the money so they pay it back and keep it going. So there's men who blame and beg and whine and complain are women. They're acting like women. They're acting just like their mothers. So we're trying to show these black men how to stop being women.
Well, I can't speak for your mother, but my mother was not a whiner or complainer at all. She was a very strong woman, and I can tell you, as well as my father is a very strong man. But I would say I think that the things that you said that you're doing through your organization are great, and I'm very proud of you for doing that. The thing is, why you have to couple that with, instead of ignore what the white people are doing or saying or whatever, and focus on bettering yourself. It sounds like you're saying love white people and white people are the best and this and that, and why not just focus on how can we better yourself? How can we better you? How can you get your feet on the ground rather than this White History Month and white people are so great, and, rather than telling people that.
Well,
you seem like a good message.
I am telling black people that they need to stop hating, because most black people, including so-called Christians, black Christians, hate white people, and they are blaming white people. They are blaming white people for something that whites are not guilty of. Whites are not guilty at all of the destruction of black people. It's due to the black man being weak, the black woman being angry. She's passing her anger down to the black man's children, turning him away from his father toward her, and causing these boys and girls to rely on others rather than on themselves. And you can't blame white people for that. It's the destruction of the family.
So the destruction of the family, slavery, incarceration, all the things that divided black families, that has no role in the destruction.
It has nothing to do with that at all.
Black families are not destroyed. I have a black family. I'm a father. I'm married. I got 3 kids.
Are you married to a black woman?
I'm married to a black woman.
Amazing. I thought you would have said a white woman.
Why do you think that? What made you think that I would have said a white woman?
Because most of the time you end up marrying what you hate. And most black men hate their mothers, so they try to get away from her, whether consciously or unconsciously. They try to get away from that spirit, so they end up marrying a Chinese or a white woman or Mexican, but they still end up marrying mama, because you have to overcome her in order to marry your own race. But I got to ask you this. What are your thoughts on the Democrat? By the way, my organization never gotten one dime from the government. We've done it on our own, with the help of other people. What do you think about the Democrats fighting against each other now?
So I don't. Well, right now, thanks to Donald Trump and his tweeting, I don't think that they're fighting amongst each other anymore. I think that Democrats are pretty united right now. So I think it's kind of a moot point. I don't think that people.
Believe me, they're still fighting amongst each other. They all hate the president, and so they're just joining forces temporarily to go after the president. But that old dirty woman Cortez and Elian and all them, they still hate the president. They still hate Nancy Pelosi and all those people.
Well, I'll tell you this. Republicans seem to hate each other too. So I think that's just the nature of American politics.
The right-o ones, yes.
If you look at Romney has said things about the president. The president said something about Paul Ryan.
Well, look at Romney. Romney and Paul Ryan are all right-o beta males. They're very weak.
Yeah, well, we can debate that, but they can debate that with you. I'm pretty neutral on that.
Are you a Democrat?
Yes, I am.
So you vote for the Democratic Party when you vote?
So generally.
Did you vote for the Great White Hope?
No, I don't. Who is the Great White Hope?
The president, President Trump.
Oh, no.
Why
no.
not? Why not?
Because he doesn't stand for the things that I stand for.
So you don't stand for the country?
I stand for health care. I stand for fair immigration. I stand against racial discrimination. I stand for women being treated right. Those are the things I stand for.
Do you stand for the country?
I think that those things are important things to the country. So,
do you stand for the country? Do you put America first?
By supporting those things, I think I support America.
Do you put America first?
How do you support America and you don't support healthcare?
Do you put America first?
As opposed to what? I put God first.
How about America?
I put God first.
Do you put America first?
I put God first.
And do you put America second?
I put America as the nation that I pledged, allegiance to, and that I constantly try to make a better place.
Do you put America second to God?
I put, me personally, I put my wife second to God. But, if you want to go down and talk about what nation I put first, of course, I put the United States of America first, and that's why I criticize it, because I want it to be the best nation it can possibly be. I'm not comparing it to, other nations around the world. I'm comparing it to what the potential for the United States is.
Do you love white people? You love white people?
I love humanity.
How about white people?
I love humanity.
How about white people?
I love everybody.
Do you love white people?
I love humanity.
One last time. Do you love white people?
Are white people included? Are they human beings?
I didn't ask about anybody but white people. Do you love white people?
If they're human beings, then yes. If they're not, then maybe we'll have to talk about it.
You don't think that they are human beings?
I think they are.
What do you mean if they are human beings?
I'm saying you're separating them from the rest of humanity. I'm saying I don't necessarily look at it that way. I love all human beings.
But I only asked about white people. If you love white people.
Yeah, I just don't separate people in that way when it comes to this question. If you ask me, do I love people? I'd say yes, I love people.
You are smart, man. You're a professor. You're teaching African history and all that. You got a black wife.
Oh, shoot.
You got African American children.
Yep.
I noticed that black people lead the way in crying racism. And if anybody else come into the country, they cry racism. Black people, not all but most, would jump on board right away. And black people are the number one haters of other people. They lead the way in hating whites, Mexicans, Japanese, the Italian, anyone that moves. They even hate other black Africans who come here and get an education, get jobs, and make their way. Black people are the most hateful people on earth. Why are they always crying racism when they're the one leading the way in hatred?
I would 100% disagree, based on history, that black people are the most hateful people in the world. As a matter of fact, I would argue that African Americans are the most loving people.
No.
And
why don't you live in the hood? I bet you won't move to the hood.
I live, a couple miles from where I grew up.
I know where you live. You don't live in the hood.
I live where I grew up. I live in the community, and I'll tell you this.
So why don't you move to the hood with those loving people?
I lived, up until 2017. I lived in the hood.
But you don't live in the hood now.
I don't live in the hood now.
And so, if they so loving, why don't you live with them?
What is the hood?
You know what the hood is.
No,
you ain't that white.
Say what?
You're not that white. You don't know what the hood is. What is the hood?
Yeah, no. What is the hood? Are there white hoods?
Yeah, I hear that there are white ghettos, even though I never seen one. I do hear that they exist.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, when you come to the East Coast, I'll take you to some places where they're virtually all white, and you'll see how comfortable you feel in that community. You've been in LA a long time. You probably haven't been in areas like Alabama in a while.
So you know where white hoods are?
Absolutely.
So you do know what a hood is, then? Why did you ask me what was a hood?
Well, you're telling me that I think you have a different definition, because you're like, I don't know if a white hood exists.
I've never seen one.
So maybe there isn't a white. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. You have to tell me what a hood is So we would define a lot of things differently. I define racism differently than you.
Do you support Ilhan Omar, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar?
So what do you mean by support?
Do you support the Democratic woman Ilhan Omar, the Congresswoman? Do you support her?
I support her in her fight against the racist attacks that she's been receiving.
How about her attacks against the Jews and white people? Do you support that?
You'd have to tell me what exactly you're referring to.
She called the white people racist and all kinds of names, and she is on the side of Palestine rather than Israel. Do you support that?
Well, I think you and I both said that it's America first, right? So, I'm not necessarily going to involve myself in that dichotomy between Palestine and Israel.
So is she wrong by doing that?
So what I will say is that I agree that when she calls people who are racist, they need to be called racist. So what the president tweeted to yesterday was racist and should be called that by Ilhan.
It wasn't racist. It wasn't racist. This woman came from an S-hole country. They brought her here. She was a refugee or something. They brought her here, and for this woman to she should have never became a congresswoman, first of all. But for her to get into Congress in America and then turn on America like that, she should be sent back to her country or go home and speak up. Why doesn't she go back to her country and speak up if she's so brave?
Well, she is an American citizen, just like you are.
But she should go back and speak up.
This is her country.
But she's not allowed to turn on America. She came from an S-hole country as a refugee.
Yeah, well, again, she is an American citizen. She swore allegiance to this country, and she loved this country enough to.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't love America. She does not. She doesn't love America.
I'm going to disagree there, Jesse.
She clearly demonstrated she hates America. I don't trust her. I think
your issue was her with Israel and Palestine. What does that have to do with America?
Let me ask you this, because she should not be in our government. She shouldn't even be here, really. But let me ask, what is a man? Let me ask this. Are you for the wall going up?
I'm not. No.
Why not?
Because I think it's ridiculous. I think it's a waste of money. I think it's not going to work. I think it's not going to, create any serious change.
Illegals are coming into this country, and they are affecting the whole country in a negative way, but they are affecting black people first and foremost by attacking blacks, running them out of their own communities, taking jobs, education, healthcare. Blacks are being affected first and foremost. Does that bother you?
So I thought you said that black people are the racist people. So now you're saying the immigrants are racist against blacks?
Does that bother you that blacks are being affected first and foremost?
Who's the racist people? And again, I'm going to disagree there. I don't think that, people are being attacked by undocumented people. The vast majority of undocumented people don't commit crimes.
I ask you, are you affected that blacks are... does it bother you that blacks are affected first and foremost as a result of illegal aliens coming into our country?
Again, we're gonna disagree there.
Are you saying it doesn't bother you?
I'm saying that I disagree with the premise of the question.
Amazing. What does that mean? You disagree? Why do you disagree?
Because I don't think that African Americans are being adversely affected by undocumented immigration.
You should come down to Compton and Watts and ask those black people that.
And I think that there are better ways to deal with undocumented immigration rather than putting up a wall.
Did you know that blacks are forced out of Compton and Watts in those areas, and that in Mexico, blacks are second-class citizens?
No, I don't doubt that there is institutional racism in Mexico and in many other Latin countries. I've seen certain things when I visited those.
I have too.
So I'm not, I'm not saying that those places are great or even better than the United States in terms of how they treat Black people. However, one of the things why you said that Black people were the most racist people around, and I'm saying that I think Black people are the kindest and most compassionate people.
That's an illusion.
And this is why, even though, yes, there are some undocumented people who are racist or who don't like African Americans, we still want them to have their human rights. We still want them to have a pathway to citizenship.
Well, there is a pathway, but they have to come through the front door. We don't want them coming in the back door. That's for sure, right?
Majority of undocumented people. So
illegal aliens, man.
Will come through ports of entry. They don't go through these remote areas. Then another 60%, are people who overstay visas. So they come on airplanes.
Jason, you're not paying attention.
What am I not paying attention to, Jesse?
To what's really happening. These people, we have an emergency situation at the borders right now because these Democrats want these people here for the votes and for the money. And it's not that they care about the American people or the illegal aliens. They just care about money and votes. I got so-called power, right? But I got to ask you this because we're out of time. What is a man?
What is a man? I think a man is, however a particular person defines a man.
Is a transgender woman a real man?
So if they are a transgender woman, then they're a woman.
No, meaning that they went from a woman, they took off their woman body part and put on men body parts. Would that make them a man?
So I would say if they define themselves to be men, then you want to define yourself to be a man, then call yourself a man.
But would you see it as a man?
Yes, I respect people's beliefs.
But in your own heart and mind, would you see it as a man?
Yes.
So you think that's what a man is?
Because I respect people's beliefs and the way they.
Are you a Christian?
No, I'm not.
Oh, an atheist?
No.
What are you?
I have my own spiritual beliefs.
What's your spiritual belief?
I have a spiritual belief in God. I believe in God. And, I don't like to put labels on it.
Do you love Black people?
I absolutely love Black people.
Why couldn't you say that about white people?
I said I love all people.
No, you said I absolutely love Black people. But when I asked you if you love white people, you couldn't say.
Yeah, no, I didn't. It wasn't that I couldn't say.
I just wanted to make
it clear. I wanted to make it clear that I love all people.
Well, why did you make that clear when I asked about Black people?
Because I think you and I have a difference. You love white people, but don't love Black people.
I love all people. I love all people, even my enemies.
Yeah, so then we agree.
I love white people. If you had asked me, do you love white people? Yes. But
I know you would have said yes.
You couldn't say yes. And when you asked about Black people, I love Black people. But Jason, give out your information again, how people can listen to you.
Absolutely. So first of all, you can certainly tweet me at Real Doc Seuss. That's at RealDocSoos. You can certainly reach me on Facebook, Jason Nichols. And you can listen to my podcast, which is called The Other Underground Railroad with Dr. Nichols. Hopefully we'll have Jesse Lee on very soon and we can continue this conversation.
I would love that. Are you for open borders?
No, I'm not for open borders.
Okay. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. And anytime you want me on your show, let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jesse.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you. Amazing.